We are gathered here this afternoon to talk about more kinds of multiplex systems. And so we've got not one but two geniuses up here that know an awful lot about these systems, more than probably the two of them could probably build an entire coach multiplex system from their memory. But once again, Frank McElroy and also Paul Whittle, and they're going to have a presentation, and then Paul's going to have some kind of show and tell with some live equipment, and we'll just have to kind of do that in small bunches and where you can see what he's showing. Take it away, Frank.
Okay. Well, good afternoon again.
Mike,
Where's Mike? Yep.
you want the walking around, Mike? No, some of you back and again.
No, I'm good. Well, good afternoon. You get to hear me for the third time in this gathering. How many of you here have an Intellitec chassis multiplex system in your coach?
House.
In the house. How many of you have had a problem with the system? A few. How many of you have been able to fix the problem? We've had a few of those too. Okay, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a bunch of things, show a few images, and a lot of what I'm showing, Paul is going to be able to demonstrate for you so you can see in real time exactly what to look for, especially if you're having some problems. So we'll explain what it is, why did Monaco use it, how it works, the difference between basically two primary different systems. They work a little bit differently, and I'm going to explain some of the nuances on them. Can it be repaired and reprogrammed? I'll answer the question is yes. Some of the do's and don'ts, and if you pay attention to what I'm saying, you're going to be able to answer every real-world troubleshooting problem that people have had with these systems, and these were primarily taken off the Monacoers website. Most of them, some of them may have been private. So why did Monaco use this system? Primarily, reduce the amount of wiring. It's the same kind of thing that I talked about on the chassis multiplex side. Instead of having gauge wire to support the load, you're looking at a smaller gauge wire, and you're sending a digital signal over that wire. And it's, I'll get into it a little bit later, there are two loops, but primarily one data wire on this system, whereas the one I talked about a couple of days ago, there were two data wires, it's only one data wire for each one of the loops. And of course, let's modernize the system. It makes it really easy to accommodate new features. I'll show you a couple of features that I put on my coach that I can basically control everything from the driver's seat. So it's kind of a nice feature. And you can customize any one of the keyboards. If you've got a blank keyboard or you have the order in the wrong place, you can change them. It's a matter of a digital software code, and you can change what each key does. If you want to incorporate themes, and I'll show this, where you have all lights on, all lights off, all shades down, all shades up. Salesmen like to have the wow factors when they were selling these coaches, and that's primarily why they put them on. It began in the Signature 2005, moved to the Dynasty 2006, and new features were added each model year. Some of the theme features were not incorporated in the older coaches, but the software could be changed to incorporate them. Okay, how do you identify the systems? One system actually uses a computer. The computer is located right here. That's actually a computer module, and the rest of these are other control modules that work lighting, slides, and a whole bunch of other things. So that would be a system that would be on Dynasty and above.
Some of those modules will also support inputs, so they can sense things that are then used by the software to display. Some of these modules support inputs, so they can sense things that are happening on the coach, and they can make things happen, or they can block things from happening. On my coach, if the ignition is on, I can't put the slide out. and it's just a software configuration in the Intellitec. I can put the slides in, but I think it's a safety so that if you're driving down the road, you can't accidentally push a button and have the slides start going out.
Actually, that's a good point. I got a slide that addresses that specifically, how it's done. There are other inputs too, because you have some switches that aren't part of the multiplex system to control other lighting, especially up front. So there are a few boxes that are input boxes and also output boxes, and some boxes are combined, input and output boxes. All right, the next one up is what's called a multi-point IPX system, and this is typically on, well, it is on the Camelot and down model year coaches. It first started off with a very small system where you have the computer box, which is located in the upper right, and then you had two other boxes that were primarily only lighting. They were only outputs, and this is a system that I believe was initially when it first came out. And then they decided to be a little bit more sophisticated and not just lighting. And they added another box in this system, and this is typical of, let's say, a Camelot like Tom Cherry's coach. And they ran out of room for the control master. This is not a computer, it's just a control master that generates a timing signal. So they didn't have enough room for it, so they hid it. They located it behind the panel that has the three boxes in it. So you have to remove that panel to find the hidden master timing box. Paul?
There are some other systems that don't have that.
I'll get to that.
Never mind.
You're just one slide ahead of me. There was another system that actually used the smart energy management system to generate the required timing sequence that's needed. And in this system, the EMS that's in the electrical base, or the panel, is actually generating that the timing sequence. So it uses the same communication protocol as the IPMX master, except it doesn't have a master in it. And the EMS can be used instead of an IPMX, which basically what I was just saying. So let's get a little bit deeper into how this system really works. So the PMC, which is the CPU-based system, you can have up to 32 modules, each one with 10 inputs or outputs. So that's the input and output on the system. The system will control the lights, the vent fans, water pumps, the slides, the aqua hot heater, door locks, the inverter, whether to turn the inverter on and off, the awnings, docking lights, TV, Insta-Hot, window shades, and the generator start-stop. So that's a lot of features that you can put on that system. So I mentioned that the system would have two loops. You have a yellow loop and a blue loop. It was up to Monaco to define which loops are being used, but in generality, most of the time the blue loop is used for almost everything except the coaches that had the electric shades and that kind of thing. They dedicated that primarily to the yellow loop. Basically, they ran out of options. Once you get above 160 features, you need to utilize another loop. When Monaco designed the coaches, they ran both loops through everything. So you had the choice of whether you were programming on one loop or the other loop.
Right.
That's how it was designed. Yes, Tom?
When you say turn the inverter off, you mean put it in standby, just like you would do with the remote.
Well, you can never turn the inverter completely off unless you do it at the inverter. But it will say inverter on, off. It's a technicality of how they listed it. But if you want it completely off, you have to get underneath there, press the button, and turn off the whole system. And then you have no option of turning it back on again, except you got to go press that button. Okay, the IPMX system uses a master or the EMS. One or the other needs to generate a timing signal. It is not programmable. You're limited to 16 modules. You only have one loop. That's just the way it is. And it's primarily for lights, vent fans, and a water pump. And that's it. So those are the limitations between the two systems. So let's get just a little bit deeper and then we'll get off the technical stuff. But you can have up to 16 modules, 10 channels per loop. That's 160 loops, 2 of them. The multiplex data uses one separate wire for each loop, a blue loop and a yellow loop. We already talked about that. Each keypad signal is sent every 4 thousandths of a second. 4 hundredths of a second. The sequence starts with a coded sync pulse at the very beginning, and then there's a clock pulse that generates. And what happens is, on this system, it's not like a CAN data bus. It actually is looking at a voltage. This is when a keypad gets pressed, and it needs to cycle through twice in order to say, yeah, the keypad was pressed. This is the voltage that turns on the indicator light. The keypad itself is not turning on that light. That light is controlled by the master or controlled by the computer. You'll see in a minute why that's kind of important. And this is when nothing is happening, and that's the timing sequence. So what'll happen is, think of it as a freight train running around a circular track. And you got a bunch of boxcars on it. Data are being loaded. It gets to the train station. Data is being offloaded. So it goes in a complete loop. You kind of think of it that way. That's how the system works. And for all practical purposes, there's no delay. When you press a key, it instantaneously happens. But digitally, that's what's going on behind the scenes. So now let's start talking about some of the systems. Let's start with the IPMX system. This one does not have a computer. It has the 3 output modules that we talked about. And this particular one, the master, it might be hidden. Most of the time it is hidden, especially on the Camelots. But let's look at, hopefully this, oops, because I thought I had another thing in it. Didn't come up. All right, let's move on. Now let's talk about the computer-based system. Obviously, when you look at it, wow, what a big difference between the two systems. This one here has inputs, outputs, dimmers. You got various also bridge modules. Some of them are outputs. Let me see here. This is a dimmer module. That's a non-latching. That's a dimmer. Another non-latching. I'm looking for an input-output. I'm not seeing it on this one. Don't know where it is. There should be a couple of input modules. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. I think they're combined modules. This one here, the non-latching, might be an input-output. That's what I'm thinking.
Frank, what's an example of one that would have an input?
Your ignition key switch. A dash switch that says turn on the some of the overhead light features would be an example of an input. Another input would be, what do you think, Paul, do you have another idea of what another one?
Is that an input?
Aquahot's an output. Yeah.
There's a signal comes from the aquahot when the burner's on, and that comes into one of the inputs, and then switches that have aquahot on can monitor that input and light up their light when it comes on.
Yeah, that's another example. If you look in the wiring diagrams, you will see specifically which ones are inputs and outputs. Okay, here's kind of a more detail of the blue loop and the yellow loop. This is an example. Here's an input module over here. Here's another relay input module over here. This one is a dimmer where you can actually dim the lights. If you go down here, this module is working the Roman shades, other shade modules. The shade ones tend to be on the yellow loop. If your coach doesn't have the interior shades, you primarily won't have much at all on the yellow loop at all. But that's a schematic All of these are the switch panels on the top in your coach. Those are the keypads. And if you notice, it's basically 3 wires. That's your yellow wire, that's the blue wire, and then you have a ground and you have a voltage supply wire. Okay. Modules address set via dip switches. There are on each one of those modules a series of dip switches that decide whether this is module A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. If you replace a module, even though it's exactly the same looking module, you have to make sure the dip switch is set correctly, otherwise it will not work. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that when Monaco was designing this, they had a number of very specific design criteria. You had a limit as to how much current each channel could draw and how much each module can draw, and a certain calculation that had to be done to not overload the module. The Beaver had a problem where as the modules aged, somebody would turn on the lights in the living area, and as long as nothing else was on, everything was fine. They turn on another light on that same module, and the living area lights kept going on and off. And the problem was they designed it more than the number of amps that that module could handle on that channel. Now that was a design issue with Monaco. But you can run into this problem where the modules start behaving erratically, especially as they get older. So we've run across a few of those problems.
Frank, could you elaborate on the, because this is a catalog problem.
There, on mine, since I have 3 modules, I have 3 separate circuit breakers that are fed off of the main, and they were on the picture. We've had people that they'll vibrate loose and they'll have a loose connection in it. And once you don't have enough power to run the module, you think it's in the system. It's not. You should go in and do your PM and tighten up all the terminals on the circuit breakers that's behind the whole thing. That solved it too. That's drove us crazy at least 4 times I can remember.
That's a good point. Each module, the assumption is that it's getting the proper amount of power. Each module is powered by its own circuit breaker. In the large one on the Dynasty and above, there's a whole row of circuit breakers across the top. Same thing for the Diplomats. Modules are all powered individually. So if you're having a problem, the first thing you check is the power supply to that module. Okay, let's take a look at some examples of the modules. Here's a 10-channel PMC non-latching relay module. They actually use 5 dual-channel soldered-in relays onto that module board, and this is a picture of what they look like on the top and bottom of the board. These are dual relays, no longer available. So in order to repair this board, we have to actually put in single relays, 2 single relays to do the repair on the board. I've tried to get these relays, couldn't get them. So when some of these boards go bad, I know Paul and I have looked at repairing them. Most all the components in here, they're still sourced. So if you get a bad one, don't throw it away. Even if you found a good one, save that bad one, because eventually we're going to run out of inventory. This is what a PMC, Central Processing Unit, computer-based system will look like. If you look very closely, it says PMC 08 Multi. That covered 08 Monaco's multiple different coaches. My Dynasty will have a program in it that will run on a SIG. So just because I don't have shades or I don't have a lot of those features, it is still programmed into the software. What varies a lot from year to year are the extra features that get added in. And I'll show you a few extra features on mine that are not going to be like on an 05. Okay, what does it look like inside? They actually made two different PMC modules depending on the year. They started to be made in the United States, and then they were offshored. And the circuit board designs did change, but from what I understand, the timing did not, because I've programmed both of them, and they both work with the same timing feature, which is really kind of nice. Just a different design in how they were made. One of them was actually lacquered. The ones that were made offshore were lacquered on the front and back side. The ones made in the States were not. I happen to have one that was made in the States. And that just is a picture of the bottom of the board. Nothing special about that. They are double-sided boards. Okay, to interface to program a PMC. This is something Paul can do, I can do. This is an interface that you basically have to build. It uses a reverse data cable and an RS-232 adapter that is plugged into my computer. And that particular adapter, you have to build it. Where is the clicker's not working?
There is one available from Intellitec, but it's crazy priced.
Yes, this was one that I built buying the parts from, I think at the time it was Mosier. The circuit diagram is there. If you're handy with doing it, you can build the adapter, and it will allow you to connect up into your computer. I don't think very many people are going to do that, but maybe. Okay, this is what the Intellitec program looks like. The software is free, but you have to build the interface adapter yourself. Anyone can copy and reload the program. You don't need a password to be able to copy the software program or to upload your program to another PMC module. However, if you make an error, it's too bad. The software is not robust enough to realize that if you upload from your computer onto the PMC, you're going to put whatever program you have on your computer onto the PMC and wipe out whatever was there. So you have to make sure that if you're copying yours, you go from the PMC to the computer. You don't want to make that mistake. A license is required, though, if you want to modify or customize the program. This is different than customizing keypads. This is where you want to customize the program and add features that Monaco didn't put in. You need a software license to do that, and there's about 600 lines of Boolean code. If you don't understand it, you shouldn't be messing with it. Paul and I both have a license to do this, so contact us if you need it.
Frank, go back one slide.
So y'all are writing code, changing.
Okay, you said something, yeah, top line, the interface adapter must be built. There's no security, there's no chip, there's nothing in there, it's just a matter of wiring it correctly.
That is correct.
Yeah.
It is that adapter that I showed a picture of. You just have to wire it in according to the schematic.
It's an RS-232 interface, so
Yep.
pretty simple.
Yeah. Let's see if I can go back. There it is in the lower right-hand corner. Shows a picture of exactly how to wire it. So it's a straightaway wire, and I put it on an adapter, so it's all included in an adapter.
Right. I actually built my first one before I got my Intellitec one.
What about USB and computers that don't have an RS-232?
Buy an older computer that has one.
Well,
That's what I wanted you to say!
no,
When you
that's,
go on
well,
to buy
that's-
your Windows 7, it will have one.
If you buy a Windows 7, it's going to have it on it.
but there's, I mean, I'm running it on a PC that doesn't have that. There's a specific chip that needs to be in the USB adapter. You just got to pick that right one. There's a common chip,
Yeah, you are.
Convert from
but it's a particular brand. It's the
Yeah, it's a-
FTDI brand.
It's a particular
The
brand with software.
The software is pretty basic, and the only one it sees from USB adapters is the FTDI chip.
Yeah, that's where sometimes Amazon with the cheaper price doesn't work.
So does this require Windows 7 or will it work on 10 when you're doing
I
it?
think I've got it working.
I'm running on 10.
Yeah,
11,
I've run it on 10.
XP.
I've run,
It'll run anywhere.
yeah, I've got it running on 10.
Thanks.
All right, let's see, where am I here? Okay, the Intellitec keypad modules used by Monaco, there were two different size keyboards. There was a small one for the 4 to 6 keypads and a large one for the 10 to 6 keypads. If you look at a large keypad, you'll see 6 buttons with spaces in between for the other keys. Everything is there on the board. It's just the cover and the bezel that's different. The boards are the same.
You're gonna cover the ones that have the inputs?
Yeah, I'll cover it. To remove the bezel, here's a trick that I use. I push with 2 thumbs really hard on one side, and with the other 2 fingers, I pull off the top. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get this clip from the bezel off these small plastic protrusions that come off. This is the part of the keypad that you see, the buttons that you'd be pressing. I know people have put in putty knives and pried them away, and sometimes they break them off and they mar the cabinet, so I found that this way for me works the best. Okay, external keypad inputs. There are cases where you would want an external input to the keypad, and this is primarily used in coaches like Camelot, where you want to have the water pump go on and off, but you want it from the service bay. So what they do is they wire up a few wires into the actual keypad module itself, and it plugs in. It's a separate plug, plugs in, runs down to that switch, and I think I repaired one for Tom Sherry in his coach, that he had a bad keypad, but it had that external connection, so I had to provide that when we did the repair.
The other one is on the entry level. When you come in to turn on your fluorescent lights, it's also. So those are the only 2 that are on the Camelot.
Okay, he was saying the entry fluorescent lights when you come into the coach, that's also a separate switch that in effect operates the keypad. Okay, one of the things that you're going to notice is that not all keypad codes are shown on the schematic. This happens a lot in especially the Camelots. I'll get down to the Dynasty and above, where most of the Dynasties they're shown, except for some of the very early ones in 2005 that got missed, but 6 on there actually shown. I'll show them on a schematic. Paul later on is going to demonstrate. I'm just going to have one slide. But if you take a look at what is said on the keypad and what is said on the module, they should basically be the same labeling, and you press the keypad and you'll see a light come on the module to confirm it. And then you can write down what the code is. The code goes by a letter of the module, and the number of the position is basically the code. There's nothing secret or special about it. So especially on Camelots and below, it's a direct 1-to-1. When you get up into a Dynasty where you're having a software program, it's not 1-to-1, because software is controlling some of the keypads, and I'll get into that in the labeling. Oh, this is the one I was thinking of. So the codes are going to be shown. If they're not shown, they may or may not be shown on the schematics. If they're not, you look at the module, you verify the code by which LED lights up on the module. So in this particular one, there are going to be LEDs along in here that are going to light up for whatever the label is on that module, and that's how you can sort them out if you don't have them. So a lot of times people would say, oh, I need to back up the PMC, I need to back up every single keypad. Well, it's nice to back up the keypads, but you don't really have to. You can figure it out. All right, try again. Oh, I went too far. All right, here's an example where the keypads are labeled, but what is different about this, when you start to look at the labeling, and maybe I can help read this for you. I'm now talking about a Dynasty and above. There is a master off, master on, and the code is P10. I don't have any module called P10. P10 is a software. a virtual keypad. And it controls a whole bunch of things, and I got a video that'll show what it controls. This is going to turn all the lights on, all the lights off in your coach. And it runs through all the software and in effect presses all of the buttons the right way. Then you have a few blanks. Here's one, B1 is right, B8, and then you have N1, N3, N2, N4, and now I'm working the slides. Slides in, slides out. Those are all virtual, and it's going to start the pump motor, it's going to work the relays that actually operate the slides, it's going to determine whether the ignition is on or the ignition is off. So all of those are software codes, and then it gets really complicated based on model year and how things are programmed in. So all of this is in the schematics, especially of 2006 and above coaches. Okay. All right, here's another example where you can look across the top and you can actually see how the keypads are labeled. Keypads that have up and down arrows that are on them. If you look closely, you'll see some of the keypads to the right. It'll have an up arrow, down arrow. That means that the lights can be dimmed or brightened. If you hold it, it'll go dimmer or brighter. Here is my setup where I'm now programming a keypad. I have a programmer adapter. It happens to plug into my very old laptop, which was an XP at the time. And I'm programming a couple of 10 keypad modules that I want a specialty program because I want them next to the dash. So I want other functionality added in, and this is how I do the software program for that. Okay, when you program a keypad, the keypads and the function and the light are two different parts of the program. You can program the keypad to turn on a light based on a different function. So that's all part of the programming. It gets kind of sophisticated, but you first set it up where you're going to program the function in for what module, what operation, and remember, if you have a computer, it could be a virtual function where you don't even have a module there, but the software program is going to execute a subroutine based on that virtual function. And then you have a separate screen where you're going to have to program, okay, which indicator light turns on based on what function has been pressed. And that's also part of the programming that you have. And there are other sophisticated parts that Monaco didn't use. You can this is where you can say, well, how bright do you want them, and that kind of thing. Monaco is just pretty standard. I don't think very many people customize for that. Now, what Paul was saying at the very beginning, this is where the programming gets specific. So let's see, this is where you have the ability to bring a slide in or a slide out based on the ignition. So this is, let me get this right here.
The right-hand one's got the ignition.
Yeah, the right-hand one, but I'm trying to think of, this has to be driver's side in. I'm wondering where it is saying that. Oh, wait a minute. Driver's side in does not have a requirement to have the ignition. Whereas a driver's side out will not work if the ignition is on. So this is where it is done in software to program the function of whether your ignition is on or not. There have been a few times where I had a slide that over time would loosen up as I'm driving, reach up and press the passenger slide in, comes in and the rattle goes away because the slide was slightly moving out.
Is that for the programmable?
Yes, only for the programmable one.
Not the others.
The other one, they do a lockout where you can't move the slide in or out. I mentioned a couple of days ago that I'll bring the slides in while the engine is running because I'm able to do that on my coach. The other one you can't because there's a lockout. You can't move it at all.
It's pure mechanical, it's not connected at all with camera lights, it's just like your TV on and off.
Yeah. All right, here is the same circuit board I mentioned before. It can be used for the 4 and 6 pad keypads. If you look, it is the same board. It is just that the center 2 keypad options are missing. So they don't use a separate circuit board for those.
The plastic housing and cover is missing, so you could replace the plastic and the black housing and add 2 more buttons to that. Because if you look on the circuit board, the buttons are there.
Yeah, that is correct. The other thing that we have done is if one of the buttons go bad on a 4-button circuit board, the 2 center buttons that aren't being used could be used as those to replace the bad one.
Right. Did you talk about repairs?
Yeah, I'm talking. Well, I will get to that in a minute. Yeah. Okay. The module indicator lights show active on the output. A module indicator light can be used to test a fuse and verify the keypad code. We had mentioned that before. And right down here, and you're going to see in the demonstration, this is an example of that module indicator light. Everything else is off. The dinette light is turned on and operates the indicator light and dinette lights. So that's one way that you can verify whether or not the output module is getting that signal. If, for example, you press dinette lights come on, the indicator lights on the dinette keypad comes on, and the indicator light does not come on, you gotta check the fuse, or you have a bad module. So that's how you can check these systems, because just because the keypad indicator light says it's on doesn't mean that the signal is going out to the device. Okay, I got a couple of video clips here that show some special features of the master on-off. And if this works, the first one is going to be all keypad backlights on and off. Let me see, and it doesn't start. There we go. Okay, so I pressed the master once, very, very short. Okay, what does that do? That turns on all the backlights on all the modules. And they're going to stay on like that forever. Unless I press the master again one time short. Now notice that keypad didn't go off, but the other ones all went off. And in about 10 seconds or so, the master main one will go off. Hopefully. That's a long 10 seconds, isn't it?
So that's not independent of the computerized version.
That's local to
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's local
Yeah.
to the keypad.
There it goes. It went off.
Well, maybe 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah, maybe 20, 30 seconds. I was a little bit off on that 10 seconds. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a local function. There's actually programmed on that second screen how long it'll keep the backlight on and things like that. So one note, if anyone's programming keypads, and you get a brand new keypad that doesn't have anything in, it's always a good idea to go read one from that coach so you pick up all of the backlight settings and things like that, so that this one will match all the other ones in the coach.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can I make a point?
Okay, wait, I have a person back here with a question.
Yes, you have these keypads and they're in various locations, and of course you have lights in various locations. Will you want to have one light turn off in various, turn off in various locations? You have to program just one button or multiple buttons?
So the question was, if you have one keypad in one location, maybe repeat the question again,
Yeah.
because I'm not understanding it.
A light to turn on in multiple locations.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 or 4 pads, but you can turn a light on, say a kitchen light from multiple locations. Do you have to program each button from each pad back to that same module?
No. So like if you want to add a kitchen light to an existing keypad that doesn't have anything on it, you would program that missing button to, yes, turn on the kitchen light too. And the other ones that turn on the kitchen light are just fine. They're gonna program, and turn on the kitchen light without changing any of the program in those modules. If you wanted to have a scene where you wanted to have a keypad turn on multiple lights, then that would require a software change to make a scene to do that.
Gotta make push it on. It's on.
No, it's on.
You're just close to the speaker.
You're too close to the
Okay.
Let's go over here and sit down. All right, the guru up here taught me everything, but he also taught me some tricks. You went out and you did all the CPUs, or you're going to do them, is that right? All right, I had this done at a gathering, and we had the candy factory down here explaining it. They charged me $100 to go through my coach. Took them 20 minutes. Now what they did is not what Paul did. On mine, I only have keypads. I don't have a CPU, okay? But what I learned from Frank, and this is for the Camelot people, in the prints, and I think I have an Excel file made up, I've got each individual keypad in there. And then I've got the number of them. Mine are like B, C, and D or something or other. Then they got 1 through 10. So I know now my keypads are backed up, but I've got an Excel file. If I need to send it to Frank or Paul, all I have to do is send them, this is the way it was programmed. Because what Frank had to do on mine, because I had one of the ones that was input, he knew exactly what to do, and all I did was send it to him and he read it. And my keypad failed because it was a tactile. It come on in the middle of the night. So I urge you, if you've got a Camelot, to look at your prints, and there are all the switches, keypads in there, and then look at them and see where they are, or else go out and manually push 1 and see which light comes up. You can make up your own spreadsheet. Then these guys can fix it for you in a heartbeat and replace it.
Back to your example where you were.
Back to your example where you were showing the master button turning on all of the lighting and staying on, right?
Right.
So in an example like a Camelot which doesn't have the computer, there's multiple keypads that have that backlighting button. Are they all hooked together, or is it each one had to be programmed to do the same thing?
I'm not sure, Paul, but I think it's an issue with the control master.
When you
Gives
push
that option.
when you push the back light, it turns them on, I think, all the way through.
On one side of the bed, but you can go to the other side of the bed and press the back light, or you can go to the kitchen and press the
Yeah,
back light.
it does the exact same function, if that's what your question is.
My question is it individually done per keypad, or is it somehow going through back to the box, back to the Camelot?
I thought it went back to the box, but I'm not positive.
It has to go back to the box because
It turns on all
I
of
think
them.
there's a sort of a phantom signal.
So it's not individually, I have to do it on every single.
No,
one.
it's
You would need to program, I think you'd need to program it on everyone. I haven't looked at this, so I'm guessing.
Okay.
But I
I
think
noticed it last night.
you would program that into each of the keypads as a separate signal, and you might have to forego one of the outputs from one of the modules.
I would say this, on the Camelot, if you press one of the keypads that say backlight and all the keypads backlight up, then
not that yours is different, but on mine, if I press the backlight, Madam says, why did you turn these things on? So they tend to go through.
And they all go on.
And whether they miss one or not, I can't tell you. But typically, it turns everything on because it goes back to like, if that's module B 17 or whatever, signals or 7, it sends it, I think, to everything.
I suspect, and I could look, but reading one of your keypads or looking at circuit diagram, we can probably confirm this. I suspect because they don't have a CPU, they're going to use one of the channels outputs with nothing wired to it, but they would program all those keys to sort of latch, unlatch that one signal, and then they program all the buttons to reflect with program the backlight in each of the keypads to come on when that signal's being sent. I think that's how they do it, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure positive. I'd have to try to look it up. But there might be a feature in the master that does that.
Okay.
One more, and then we need to move on.
I'm turning the air on. You guys look sleepy.
Yeah.
Frank, are the keypads available, and if so, can you add a keypad without, going through a lot of work?
They're available with limited supply, I would say. And can you add keypads? Hold the question. I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay, let's. One of the features that we have are all lights off and all lights on, and this is on my particular coach. So I'm going to press it. I'm going to hold it for about 3 seconds. And if you notice, all of the lights in the coach went off, but the keypad light stayed on. Why? Because I need to press it again for a short second or two. The one thing you'll notice is that I think it's the pump light is still on. Yeah, the water pump. It will only turn off the lights. It's not going to turn off everything in your coach. It's not going to turn off the water pump or other features. Now, if you hold and press longer, I think it's 6 seconds, it will bring on all the lights in the coach. That particular feature wasn't in 05. I don't know if it was in 06. If you happen to have shades, they'll raise them all and lower them all too. Salesmen wanted wow factors when they went to sell these coaches, so that's why some of these features kept coming in.
Is that feature only on the CPU?
Only on the CPU. We're only talking about the CPU right now. One of the things I did, and this is posted in the download files, there is a PowerPoint file that if you wanted to remake the labels using vellum paper that you get from Staples, and if you're really handy with PowerPoint, you can bring it up and edit it any way you want. That happens to be part of one sheet. When I print them out, I'll probably have about 8-9 rows on one piece of vellum paper that you buy from Staples. So if you wanted the software to do it, it's in our download files. The only thing I ask it is personal use only. Please don't go posting it on the web. This took me a long time to figure this out, to make all the fonts and everything the same so that you could remake the labels. So this is an example where I wanted to have, by the driver's seat, the ability to do a lot of functions instead of getting up and doing them, especially a lot of times I'll travel alone. So for example, I wanted to turn the Aqua Hot on and off, run it on diesel, lock the doors, turn on certain ceiling lights, turn the inverter on and off, a master, the water pump, and I wanted the ability to work all the slides from the driver's seat. And why did I want that? Because a lot of times I pull into a parking spot, I am alone, I don't know if a car pulled up right next to me and I'm putting the slides out thinking nobody's there. Or I'm bringing the slides in, it's been wet and rainy and the water is dripping off the slide, I don't want to bring it in too fast. So from the driver's seat, I can actually see how the slides are coming in and out. I wanted to have that feature. I put both of those by the driver's seat, and all I did was run 3 extra wires and I picked it up off the slide. So I'm adding about 6-7 feet. I'm adding all of those features because I wanted it by where I sit. Okay, it's not working.
Can you add a button to shut that door? I forgot to latch.
Unfortunately,
Is it got an actuator?
Okay, let's cover some of the do's and don'ts. I do recommend that you get a copy of the PMC program. This is going to allow you to replace it with the exact same program. Now, Paul Whittle, myself, Eminem have very many different versions, and we can probably come very close. But if you had any customization done, or if Monaco changed anything, we're just not going to have it. A direct replacement program would be great, and if you have your coach here and you haven't been on Paul's list, I think he still has some time, go see him. Let's see here. Yeah, the keypad programs are great to have, but are they critical? No, you can figure it out yourself. It's not that critical at all. Do be careful in removing the keypad bezels. We already covered that. You don't want to mar the finish on the cabinets. Do shut off the power before you disconnect and reconnect the keypads and modules. It's not a good idea to plug them in hot. Will you damage them? Probably not, but it's just not the safe way to do it. It's always better to power down first. And the other thing is, please don't connect anything else into that data bus harness. It is so easy for somebody to come along and say, hey, this is a ground wire, I need a ground wire, I'm just going to tap into it. Because this whole system operates under fairly high speed, looking at very specific voltages, and you can really cause a problem if you start tapping into things that you don't know. You say, oh, there's a wire, there's a ground wire, I'm just going to tap into it. Resist doing that. Okay, this is quiz time. I got a couple of real-world troubleshooting and repair solutions. First up, I have a Dynasty. All my lights keep going on and off. I tried to reboot the PMC. That didn't help. Is my coach possessed? This has really happened. Anybody want to take a guess as to what's going on?
Start the generator.
Yes.
Something shorted out, there's too much current being pulled through it, and so it's,
No.
nope.
As a matter of fact, they were coming on and off in the same sequence as holding the master switch.
Loose terminal.
So remove the pillow on the bed that was pushing against the master. What happened here? Yeah, I went backwards. Yep, there you go. Let's try another one. If I turn on only one ceiling light in the lounge area, everything is fine. If I turn on more lights, all the lights start turning on and off. Why? I covered that one. You can't answer it.
I know it.
You've overwhelmed the amperage.
That's what too much voltage.
That's exactly correct. And what was the solution? By the way, this particular one happened on Turnbull's Coast. She was a lady that got me the master modules off Facebook. There were 3 20-watt bulbs plus 8 10-watt bulbs, and it overloaded the FET. These are all FETs in these modules. I told her to change out to halogen bulbs to lower the current draw. Problem solved. That was on a Patriot Thunder 2009.
Mention the fact that we've had people that the ballast are now.
I'm gonna get to that. Okay, why do we need to press a certain key on the keypad multiple times to get it to work? Anybody have that problem? No? Yep, back there. So what was the fix?
Press hard.
It's not fixed, it's temperamental.
All right, Paul, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, this happens most on the keys, like the slide keys, where you're pushing and holding it. My suspicion is that the software that's scanning the keypad could maybe be improved, but it's basically the button isn't working as the software expects it to do, the physical switch. So the fix for that is replace the switch. They're readily available on Amazon. I have seen some of the through hole, but almost all of them are surface mount, just little 4-layer. In fact, I think I have some here. I'll put them out on the table so you can see later. Anyone with moderate soldering ability would be able to do that. If I do offer it as a service, if you want to send me a keypad, I'll replace all of the switches on the tester.
Well, it's a good thing Paul and I think alike, we got the same answer. Okay, half the system is working, or isn't working. What do I do? Anybody want to take that one? No? All right, first try to reboot the system, cycling the salesman switch or the battery disconnect switch, and then check the circuit breakers feeding the individual Intellitec modules, because one or two of them may have tripped. And I think, I'm surprised, Tom, you didn't answer that
You
question.
told me I couldn't, but I will say this. Thanks, Frank.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. What happens is, you don't want to bypass your salesman switches on on a Dynasty. That's the easiest and quickest way to reboot properly.
Okay, the next system, or the system is acting erratically. Sometimes lights go on and off without any keypads being touched. Why? I'll let Tom answer that one because he tried to answer it before.
You have a tactile problem according to M&M, but they couldn't fix it. The switch actually has bad contacts in it, and the vanity light in the bathroom come on middle of the day. Frank told me to try everything, like plug in chargers, carry my cell phone, do a voodoo dance. Bottom line was I sent it to him and he replaced it. Now what Paul just said, it sounds like that one switch could have been replaced on the keypad and repaired. Is that right?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, that's right.
I've got another answer for that one, Frank.
Yeah, it might be up there on the screen.
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
So I've got another one. You want to go through those? Or?
Yeah, one of the possibilities, and the first thing we tell people to do is to check for interference on the data line. You try to disconnect the fluorescent light fixtures physically because the ballasts tend to throw out spurious signals. And then what you want to do is, if it's always one function, you try unplugging all the keypads with that function, because you could have a bad keypad micro switch. So if there happens to be a keypad, multiple keypads with the same function, you need to unplug all of those with the same function just to see if it isn't a bad micro switch on one of those keypads.
The other one I saw was actually at a rally, and they, after some time, their lights just kept going up and down, up and down, up and down. And after troubleshooting, we found that one of those relay/input modules had an input. There was a switch near the door that would turn lights on. And that module was faulty. And so he was sensing that that switch was continually being pressed. And so he was sending onto the bus the continuous signal to turn it on. And because there was a dimming signal, they're going up and down, replace the module, and that fixed the problem.
So in effect, the switch was being held in because the module was bad.
Logically, yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's try just a couple more. Can unused keypads and other keypad functions be changed? Everybody should know this one. The answer is yes. And you contact Paul, myself, M&M can reprogram any key function that you want. You just have to tell us what you want. I press a keypad, but the indicator doesn't come on. Why? Who knows that one? Yeah, could be. The indicator light is turned on and off when the master module detects that a keypad is being pressed. So you're assuming that it's actually the master module is seeing that you did press that keypad. Likely you have a bad keypad module or the button that's on the keypad itself.
On the keypads, are these LEDs that light up and off?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll see Paul has them right there. In a few minutes, you'll demonstrate it. I press a keypad, the indicator light comes on, but the lights don't. Why? Who else? Go ahead.
How about a fuse? You push the button and go
Yeah.
and look at the module.
Let's find out.
Comes on.
See if the indicator LED on the module comes on. If the LED doesn't light, you likely have a bad fuse, a bad module, power supply feed. If the LED does light on the module, you likely have a wiring issue or a burnt out bulb. Most of the time, that's what happens. All right, let's see. Can't find the master module. Do I have one? If so, where is it?
Hidden behind us.
Yeah, well, you know, pretty good. Master modules on most are hidden, typically behind the other modules. All right, I have an Intellitec lighting system and the BMS board and the electrical panel, and a BMS board and the electrical panel. Both the EMS display and the house lights don't work. there is a red IPX fault light on the EMS board. How do I fix it? Want to answer that one, Paul? Because I think you worked that one.
What Intellitec recommends if you're using the EMS board as a master is to replace with one of the separate control masters, not a CPU. But I don't know. I remember something about this, but I can't remember.
Yeah, this particular one. So the red fault light means that there's a problem with the Intellitec data bus. You disconnect all the output modules and keypads on the EMS system. Now this is the EMS system, doesn't have a master in it. If there is no fault light, you reconnect the components one at a time until you get the red fault light, then you know which component is bad. If the fault light still stays on, you disconnect the data bus wire. If the data bus fault light still stays on, you have a bad EMS. If the fault light goes out, you have a wiring problem. And guess what? They found a wiring problem. Some of the wiring got chewed, and that's why the red EMS light came on. And there was a long thread about this posted, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago or so.
He finally fixed it. He was smart. He actually changed it to where he put an IPX in instead of that. And it still didn't work.
Frank, do you plug them in hot, or do you shut it down first?
No, I shut it down first and then unplug it. You always should, on electronics, you always should, before you plug it or unplug, shut it off. Okay, I think this is the last one. This one is a pretty good one. Press a keypad called dining lights. The keypad lights up, but the dining lights don't light up. All right. When I press the keypad for the overhead cabinet lights, it lights the overhead cabinet lights and the dining lights. The dining lights keypad LED is on, but the output module LED doesn't light. What's wrong? Anybody want to take a guess on this one?
That sounds like a wiring problem.
I would say, Paul, you're onto something. So, we found out that the dinette light output fuse was blown. The repair tech didn't know what he was doing, didn't understand the system. So the dining lights were combined with the overhead cabinet light wire, replaced the fuse, reconfigured the wiring, and now everything works. And my best piece of advice is don't assume a new coach to you has OEM wiring. You always have to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Very good, Paul.